All right, I just pulled out my Little John crankbait box. That's right, my little SPRO Little John crankbait box. You can see there's a bunch of different colors in here. I'm gonna walk you through all the colors that make it into my box. Now, with the SPRO Little Johns and a lot of other shallow crankbaits, there's a zillion colors to throw. You really might be curious on where do I even start on colors to throw? Well, that's what we're gonna do right now. So I'm just gonna take my Little John crankbait box and we're gonna go through it. Now, some of these crankbaits I've had from day one. I've had, you know, over 10 years, some of these baits in here. And then some of them have just been put in here this year. Now, these two compartments up here are the Type R's. They're the rattling versions. Those are newer. I'm still getting used to those. I've already caught a good number of fish on them, but we'll get to those here in just a second. Now, I've kind of got it divided by, up here is the Little John MD, a little bit deeper runner. As you can see when I get it out of here, they like to hold hands, but it's got that bigger bill on it. It runs about 7 to 9 feet deep. You can grind it all day in, you know, 3, 4, 5 feet of water. You can grind it all day. It's got more of a swimming action than the, you know, the original Little John, which is this right here. It's got the computer chip bill, fiberglass bill, micarta bill, however you want to call it. That's the bill that's in there, and that'll run 5 to 6 feet deep. But it really shines in that 3 to 5 foot range. So we're just gonna kind of go through some of these colors real quick, and I'll show you kind of the different categories. Now, the two main categories for me are a crawfish pattern and a shad pattern. Now, within the crawfish pattern, there's natural crawfish patterns, and then there's brighter colors, you know, for more stained water. But, you know, starting early in the spring, wintertime, in the early spring, almost no matter where you are, a red crankbait can be absolutely dynamite. That's one I caught a big fish on in a recent February Bassmaster Elite Series in Tennessee. That is called Western Crawl. It's got that soft orange belly and that kind of that crawl pattern on the side. Now, another variation, if the water might have a little more stain to it, or I want a little more pop, that's called Fire Crawl. It's got a little brighter orange. I really like those two. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention my old buddy, my old faithful, Mr. Spring Crawl. I absolutely love this color in the early spring, water stained. It's got that kind of reddish brown top. I've caught just tons and tons of fish on it. And as you can see, I took a Sharpie, or you can take a dye marker, you know, like you use for soft plastics, and just color that bill to match the bait. I did the same thing on this this Little John right here, the Western Crawl. So Spring Crawl, Fire Crawl, Western Crawl, really, really hard to beat. Delta Crawl is one I like. It's a little different variation. It's got a little brighter color, red and orange on it. If that's a little better in your area, that might be something to look at, but I don't put it in my box just because I can't carry everything. I've got to kind of whittle it down a little bit. And then for sure, not really a crawfish pattern. This is more of just like a general stained water pattern. Is the blackback chartreuse sides, just an old school standard color crankbait. I'm gonna go to this more in the stained water in the summer and the fall. That's when I'm gonna go to that guy. But they get to share a compartment here in my little box. And then going over to more of the natural crawl patterns, I've got, this is called Pig Pen. I really like this color, and believe it or not, it doesn't sell that well. Very disappointing because it just kind of reminds me of Charlie Brown. I think that's why we named it Pig Pen. But I really like that color quite a bit. When the water's just a little stained in that springtime, not real dirty, but when that water starts to clear up a little bit, we'll grab this one without the hooks on it. I really like, it's called Green Pumpkin Crawl, and it's got that little orange stripe on the belly, and just that perfect natural green pumpkin kind of top with that crawl pattern on there. And that crawl pattern actually drew out on a piece of paper, and the manufacturers matched it. And that's what we've been going with on a lot of our crawl patterns. Just kind of my old school hand stencil drawing right there. But those are kind of my top crawl patterns. And now we're gonna go more to the bait fish patterns. Now within the bait fish patterns, you've got your naturals, and then you've got your what I call flashes, something with some chrome or some reflection on there. And then you know, more of your just bright pop colors, contrast type colors. So for the just a standard shad pattern, it is hard to beat old school Cellmate. That's called Cellmate. It's got that pretty blue back. It's got those little shad dots. It's got kind of a chartreuse hue to the sides, and then more of a flat white belly. I put a red hook on there. I'm not a huge red hook guy. As long as it's a Gamakatsu hook, I'm a Gamakatsu hook guy because those are the sharpest. But this is one of my original baits. This is probably 12 years old or so, something like that. That crankbait right there. It has been a humdinger for me and caught a bunch of fish. One of the more recent colors that I really like is called matte shad. And when the water's a little bit clearer, it's translucent, but then it's got that blue or that purple hue to the back and to the sides. Really like that. That was a Megabass color, and I really like that in that Megabass color. So we did it in the SPRO as well. And then when the water's clear, especially in the fall, they get on them little shad. That color right there is called Spooky Nasty. This is one of my all-time favorites in the summer and fall when the water's a little on the clear side. There have been times I've been fishing in the fall, and this color right here will outproduce Cellmate or any other shad color like 2-3 to 1. I mean, a marked difference in the color. So that's why we do that. And if you're wondering why some of these don't, I'm grabbing the ones that don't have hooks because they come out quicker. Some of the ones without hooks are ones that I had maybe robbed hooks from to put on new baits or to test baits, and then they just pack up a lot easier if they don't have hooks on them. So a lot of times I'll just leave those ones in there as long as they run good and you know, they kind of tested. These are kind of like the best of the best. These ones all have been tested, and I've caught fish. There's maybe only a few in here that have not been quote unquote tested in this box. And then, but one of the newer colors I threw in was that color right there. As you can see, it's an old school Norman color, really, but it's that purple. It's got that purple flake in it with that gray back. That is that's going to be a good color, I think. But it's hard for me not to throw Cellmate under those situations. But then another color when I want some flash, but the water still got, you know, some clarity to it, not super dirty. I really like this, called a chrome olive. It is just a straight chrome side with that olive back, and it's a little white belly stripe. I've caught a pile of fish on this color right here, and I know of a couple tournaments that have been won, more than a couple actually. A couple tournaments have been won on that color right there. That is one I really like. And if I want, this is a newer color. It's called Chrome Sexy Shad, and this is one of the Wamiku color shad colors in the shad pattern. Shinfu Kai, I think, kind of came up with this color, this variation of it, I should say. It's got that brighter blue back, which is nice sometimes. Then it's got that matte but chrome. It's got chrome but matte, and then a little chartreuse stripe on the side, a little orange on the throat. Just a nice variation for a color with some pop to it, shad color with some pop to it. And then you really can't leave home without citrus shad. Citrus shad is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites when you want some contrast, and this thing will work, especially in the fall, around surprisingly clear water, and water that maybe even 2 feet of visibility. You throw that thing, and it's something about that flash and that brightness on the sides and that chartreuse belly. They will come out of the woodwork and hunt it down. But then one of the other colors that you may want to look into for the shad that has a little flash to it, it's called Homemade Shad, and it's got that gray back with the shad scales on the side. I've already caught a pile of fish on that color right there. This is the type R that I was telling you about, the rattling version. R stands for rattling. Rattling, I really like the rattling around when I'm fishing around grass and I'm fishing around areas that have a ton of bait fish. In the fall, you can fish areas that have a ton of bait fish, and it's hard to differentiate your vibration of the crankbait from the vibration of all those shad or whatever bait fish that you might be around in that time of year. So that's when I really like that rattling side, or around grass. It seems to excel around that grass as well. And then also, I didn't want to leave this one out. I kind of skipped over it, but that's a Rayburn. I call it Rayburn Red. It's another Waimuku shad color. Waimuku's a lipless bait SPRO makes. But man, that thing looks really good. And I've had a handful of people comment already on some of my posts that they have blasted them on that color already. And that is a color we just released in late 20. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of crankbait colors, when you might want to throw what colors, and you can kind of digest that. If you have any questions or comments, drop them down there. If I left out anything, any colors that I left out for a shallow crankbait fishing, drop that down there in the comments. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you throw, if it's different than what I throw, if that makes sense. All right. Again, thanks for watching.